Good morning. I just wanted to reiterate some of the things Josh had just said. I congratulate you and admire your perseverance. Thank you for coming out for this online admitted day. I hope you and your families are safe. And I just want to encourage you to stay at home. And from there, I want to introduce myself briefly. My name is Marcus King. I'm a faculty member here at the Elliott School. All of our programs are led by full-time faculty members. I have a PhD in International Affairs from a similar program. I've led the program for 6 years, and I come to the Elliott School with equal experience in academia, government-related research, and presidential appointed policy positions in the U.S. government. My teaching and research focuses on transnational security, most particularly environmental security and climate change. So I look at the intersection of natural resources and conflict. But now on to the program. This first slide here shows the HMS Victory. The HMS Victory was the flagship of the Royal Navy at the height of its power in the 1700s. This ship on the slide, so for those of you not familiar with the military, a flagship is the lead ship in a fleet of vessels. It's the largest, most heavily equipped, and best known. MAIA is the Elliott School's flagship program because we exemplify all of these characteristics. So moving on here to the next slide. Why would you choose an education at MAIA? One moment here. So MAIA is composed to address the world's global challenges. This is much the same way that the university itself and the Elliott School is composed. The most important global challenges include things like what's most prescient right now is diseases, also global cyber issues, the financial markets, and also transnational security issues like global terrorism. So these are the most important global challenges, and the school is organized around them. And so why the Elliott School and why MAIA? Give me one moment here. Why MAIA is because, for one, we are located here in the heart of Washington, D.C. And why is that important? As this picture itself shows, we are literally steps from the World Bank, the IMF, the Organization of American States, and the State Department. This allows us to hire top-tier faculty who want to be in Washington at the Center of International Relations, and faculty practitioners. We draw upon a large DC policy community for what we call professors of practice, and also part-time faculty who are working in the fields that they're teaching about. They're connected to the latest trends, most particularly the latest trends in employment. We also, what's unique about the Elliott School is also evening classes. Evening classes facilitate the majority of our students who will work or hold internships. Our practitioner faculty can be here at school because they come after their daily work. So this is unique among the schools in Washington, D.C. It's the convenience of evening classes. Also, evening classes facilitate hundreds of lectures, conferences, seminars, and distinguished guest speakers we have at the Elliott School. We have approximately 300 events per year. This can be overwhelming, but they're tailored to people's specific interests, and I'll get more into that later. Also, our DC location facilitates visits from high-level dignitaries, from French President Emmanuel Macron to Greta Thunberg, who came by rather unexpectedly last year. We have 18 research institutes and policy programs, which is another unique feature. The institutes are interesting because they basically align with the MAIA concentrations that are available. The institutes themselves host programs that are relevant to either the thematic or regional focus that you may have in MAIA. Many events are also held at lunchtime to accommodate working students. For example, our Institute for Middle East Studies hosts a popular blog called The Monkey Cage. The Monkey Cage was rated as the most reliable source for Middle East information by a recent survey of government agencies. Also at our Institute of International Economic Policy, we have a famous scholar, Dr. James Foster, who developed the indicators used by the UN and the World Bank to measure poverty. So this is just another example of the real-world research that takes place in our institutes. Our regional institutes also provide students with scholarships and other opportunities for funding, such as language study and funding for travel to the regions, which often takes place over the summer. So on the next slide, I wanted to talk a little bit about our purpose here at MAIA, our faculty at MAIA, and our students. Our purpose, along with myself and a dedicated team for MAIA that includes an advisor for academics, that also includes a career coach, we cooperate closely with the Graduate Student Services Office to ensure that you are informed, first of all, about the events and also about the career opportunities that will make the most of your time here at the Elliott School. We realize that many students come to the Elliott School having majored in political science, for example, or international relations, or they have international professional experience. What we try to do is help you leverage that experience for the maximum global impact and for employment. Your career plan is also part of what we call a comprehensive action program, CAP. The comprehensive action program is a form, really, but it's developed alongside your academic plan and your career plan, which is literally a document side by side, and understanding your academics reinforces your career, and you can see how you progress through both of these at the same time. So we're excited to have been able to fully integrate career services, advising, and the MAIA program. Along with myself and our program coordinator. As a team, we're all there to serve you. Our faculty at MAIA is made up of 3 different types of professors. We have a core faculty that has solid roots in the social sciences. For example, Dr. Finnemore, Martha Finnemore, Dr. Michael Barnett, Dr. Charlie Glazer, who teaches our International Affairs Cornerstone class. If you take these 3 together, this is really the greatest concentration of scholars of international relations theory at any school, at any peer institution. We also, as I alluded to briefly, we have the opportunity to have professors of practice. Professors of practice have usually had distinguished careers, including cabinet level officers, such as the former Director of Central Intelligence, Ambassador John Negroponte, who served us last year. We have Admiral Michelle Howard on the faculty. She was the first Black and female person to earn the rank of Admiral in the Navy for surface warfare. She's perhaps best known for leading the SEAL team strike against the Somalian captors in the movie Captain Phillips. So she's also very famous. Another professor of practice is Edward Skip Ganim Jr. He was one of 2 former directors of the Foreign Service that we have here on faculty teaching MAIA students. He's also an Elliott School alumnus, and he served as former ambassador to Kuwait, Australia, Jordan, and the United Nations. So you can also learn, almost as importantly, from your fellow student. Ideally, the way I teach my classes is hope that a person from the region we're discussing, a region that is impacted by our teaching, is in the classroom. And this is very frequently the case. What this brings to me is the fact that MAIA is one of the most diverse programs at the Elliott School or any competing institution. because our hallmark is our diversity. We have international students and students from just about all of America that can bring this diversity to the classroom. Our program is predominantly female, slight majority. We have 26% students from underrepresented populations here. That's a much higher percentage than our competing programs. And we have 20% international students, which is a relatively high number as well. We generally have had many Chinese students. Over the last few years, there's been a particular rise in applicants from Africa. They're the fastest growing cohort. And I think this is probably coincident with an increasing interest in the program in development policy as well as conflict resolution. I know it's really enriched my classroom to have people, for example, I had a student from Somalia when we were discussing drought in Somalia, and she was a PhD student. So you take classes with a variety of different students from other parts of the university and also from consortia around Washington. We have consortium partners. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the different concentrations here. I mentioned that there are 15 concentrations, which is part of the flagship designation we have. We're the largest and most diverse program. These are listed here. These are what the thematic specializations or concentrations. They're listed in order of enrollment. So international security studies is our largest concentration. Taken together, international security studies and conflict resolution are sort of two sides of the same coin, in my view, so they're security studies writ large. This group of people is about usually just under half of the students here in the MAIA program. But as I had mentioned, international development is our largest growing concentration over the last couple of years. Partially because we have excellent instruction in economics, including development economics, and bottom-up focused pro-poor development courses. But also, I think because we do have an econ requirement, and MAIA students are not afraid of economics generally. Two other thematic specializations here I just wanted to highlight quickly are global gender policy and global energy and environmental policy. These are special to me because, as I've said, I was here about 6 years, and these are two programs that have started up under my watch. The largest success story in some ways has really been our global gender policy concentration. It's unparalleled among our competitor schools in international relations because it's really come together where we have core faculty who are experts on gender policy. We have research methods courses specializing in gender policy, and we've integrated gender policy into the curriculum of other areas like conflict, gender and conflict, gender and development. And gender studies has also been the focus of one of our capstone sections. So putting that all together, that's an unparalleled opportunity for gender studies. And also global energy and environmental policy has always been important to me, and I'm really glad to have established a concentration in that because I do believe that climate change is the civilizational challenge that we face right now in the international arena. So these are all courses as part of the International Affairs program. These are thematic specializations. Interestingly, and something that I've really not understood, to be frank with you, is global health has not been one of our larger thematic specializations. And it's interesting because we have very close ties to the Milken School of Public Health, and you can basically do a dual degree between a master's in public health and the MAIA degree. So, unfortunately, in some ways, I do see our cohort growing in global health, and we're really ready for them because we've got a lot of great connections in that area. So moving along to our other set of concentrations, these are our regional specializations. Our regional specializations are interesting in the sense that we do have a small number of students that have a concentration in regional studies. And the way that sometimes I look, though, at regional studies is they're sort of a proving ground, let's say, for a thematic concentration. And what I mean by that, for example, is if you have your primary concentration in conflict resolution or development, a second regional concentration on a region like Africa would make a lot of sense because Africa is an area where these issues play out. One thing our dean, Ambassador Ruben Brigadier, is always known for saying is that all issues, all major global issues, play themselves out one way or another on the African continent. So this would make sense. So we do have the capacity to do two concentrations, and frequently a regional concentration would be the second concentration. You don't by any means need to do concentrations, two concentrations. I find a lot of times you have more freedom if you constitute one formal concentration and then you take a variety of electives and supporting courses from other specializations. You always are building something I call the coherent narrative about your study here at MAIA, and you can always refer to your primary concentration and then other significant coursework in another. I believe we have about 30% of our cohort that does two concentrations. I think that number is correct. So quickly, I wanted to really drill down on our curriculum. What we have here in this flow chart is just a curriculum sample. This is an imaginary student, but it maps the course of very many students, actually. This student here has taken international security studies. So this gives me an opportunity to describe our core curriculum. So the core curriculum, which is one of 4 semesters, 40 credits to complete the program. The core curriculum is 9 credits. And this is composed of, what I said, sort of our main social science classes that are taught by our regular faculty that really form the basis of theory from which to build your study of the practice of international relations upon. And so our International Affairs Cornerstone is a class on international relations theory. Many of you have majored in international affairs or taken political science courses, but this one is really special because not only does it give you the basic theories of international affairs and a review there if you haven't had them, but it applies them to specific case studies and different situations that will come up within your supporting coursework, no matter what your concentration is. Another course in our core is called Uses of History. Uses of History is very interesting because we should really be calling it misuses of history. So this is how regimes across the world have had something what we call creation myths. We've had impressions of history that have really formed their behavior and how they relate to other nations. As I had mentioned, economics is within our core curriculum. We have a course on international economics, which most people would take just one. But we also do have a major field in economics where people will also take more advanced coursework on trade and finance, econometrics, applied economics, that sort of thing. So it says major field here. This is what we used to call them, but now they're concentrations. This person's concentration would have been international security studies, where they took a total of 12 credits. And these are examples of some of the supporting courses for the international studies concentration. Fundamentals of Intelligence is a very popular one for people that would go on to become analysts. Homeland Security and Transnational Security. These 3 courses to me, especially as a professor in this area, are mutually reinforcing. You would understand how to be an intelligence analyst for transnational security, for example, which are security threats that don't invite only a military response. The electives this person then took was cybersecurity and cyber threats and policy. So you can see they developed sort of a mini focus on cybersecurity that complemented their fundamentals of intelligence class, strategic planning, and of course on understanding nuclear weapons. We also have skills courses, which makes us unique among our competitor institutions. These skill courses are 1 credit per course, and they are interesting in the sense that they present very hard skills sets. The ones that I generally recommend for people are sharpening your writing skills of short memos and briefings. So that's called Writing for International Affairs Policymakers. This person took a negotiations short course for 1 credit. Formal briefing, sharpening those skills is another really important course. Frankly, one that I wish I had taken earlier in my career because I became proficient after about 15 years of service in the government at really delivering a hard-hitting formal briefing, and I wish I had had that skill earlier. It's possible to also take a skills course related to language. So this person sharpened up their Mandarin, it looks like, so they did a 1 credit language course on Chinese. Finally, we have the Capstone, and I'll talk more about the Capstone later, but this person did a thematic capstone related to security. So now is something I think, I just gave you a typical pathway here, but I wanted to mention something that has just been developed by us in the last week or so, and this is something called the Flex Start option. The Flex Start option is for admitted students such as yourselves that are going to be beginning study in fall 2020. You're eligible to participate in this program. And this is especially for students that may be experiencing some sort of COVID-19 related delay, maybe in your visa, maybe there's travel restrictions in your country, especially for our international students. Maybe you have a concern about relocating to the Washington, D.C. area at this time. You can sort of rest assured that now you could do your first semester remotely. So you have the option of enrolling in 2 or 3 courses online for the fall semester, and these courses are included in our core. The International Affairs Cornerstone will be presented, also economics, and then you could choose one other course from your future intended concentration. And so this is, you're eligible for a total of 9 credits that you can take off campus during this first term. And we do have an in-house instructional design team because we already do offer one of our courses, the mid-career Masters of Public Policy course online. So this instructional design team has put together these courses for you in case you can't make it to campus. And so this is something we're offering, and I know the competitor institutions here in DC aren't to do this. So I just wanted to throw that in. If you want to learn more about the Flex option, you can send an email to ESIA grad, which is going to be flashed up as one of your options on the last screen here. So I think now is a good time to talk about the Capstone. The Capstone, we refer to it as the Global Capstone. Within the Global Capstone, it encompasses over 300 students from most of our master's programs, and the students break down for a project that lasts the entire second year of their enrollment in the program. And what the Capstone project entails is it's an in-depth policy analysis, a policy research paper that often involves field research trips to foreign countries. These research trips are normally done over spring break in the spring of your second semester within the Capstone program. And what you're really doing is, well, to back up a bit, you break up into thematic sections that reflect your interest, usually your concentration, and each thematic section has about 20 students in it. I happen to teach a Capstone. Within my Capstone, we have groups of 3 to 5 students that then work together on a group project to do this policy research paper that provides recommendations, almost always working with a client. So some of the clients we've had, recently would be the U.S. Department of State, the Global Engagement Center there. If you know, they work on counterterrorism. Center for Strategic International Studies, development-focused students might work with the World Bank, for example. And we've had people Capstone program that have with public, private, and nonprofit organizations. So the Capstone program has really been the hallmark um, of the experience, and we've developed this in the last 4 years. It continues to evolve, and one way it has evolved is that there is now more and more funding available for students to travel. And it's a competitive process where you apply for funding for your travel in the spring, and most viable proposals, if they're of high quality, are funded, and most students do have that capacity to travel. Also, to let you know, if you're concerned about issues, perhaps security clearances that you hold because you're working during the day in an internship, you don't have to travel, but it's an opportunity for you to travel. And the way that we teach our courses in the evening in general is what really allows you as students to obtain internships. Most of our students have either an internship or full-time employment. Our international students not as much, but maybe the second year they'll seek employment. But I look at the Capstone as a bridge into your career. There are many examples of a Capstone team that would work in a particular sector, that would have a particular client, and then would transition into working either in that field or for that particular client. So we're very proud of how the Capstone's developed in the last few years. So moving to the next slide, I ended up covering most of this, so I'll basically, just reiterate that we do have a 3-credit total of skills courses, 1 credit per course. And here's just a list of some other courses. I mentioned writing for international affairs professionals. But a really interesting one has been use of mobile phones in development. Many countries obviously do transactions not through formal financial institutions, but over cell phones. So that's a very important course. Another one that's not listed here, but I think is I know is very popular and is very useful, is one course called Inside the Embassy. Inside the Embassy is taught by Ambassador Ghanim, who I mentioned was the Director General of the Foreign Service. And this just gives you sort of the same experience as what they call the A100 course for diplomats, which is the introduction to being a diplomat and really getting people a leg up on understanding how an embassy works. Speaking of the State Department, I just wanted to mention that we do, sorry, I'll just go to the next slide here. Speaking of the State Department, I wanted to reiterate interning while you study. You are in the heart of DC, where you can intern in defense development in diplomatic communities. But I wanted to mention that we've had incredible placements particularly with the Department of State. And this has been a great opportunity for our students to get a leg up, for example, on the security clearance process. Other students who are coming into DC from other institutions, especially outside Washington, they'll arrive in DC after their graduation, and then they'll realize from that point they've got a 9 or 12-month process in order to get the security clearance to work either at the Defense Department or the Department of State. Whereas we have dozens of students that have already been interns there, and they can transition smoothly right upon a graduation into those positions. But also the reinforcement you get, obviously, in the classroom from spending your time during the day working on an issue and then learning about it and reinforcing that knowledge, is really a hallmark of our opportunities here. So quickly on to employment. We have over a 96% job placement average of our graduates. This data is obtained from a post-graduation employment survey that goes out to all MAIA graduates. It has an excellent response rate. So you can see that graduates of the MAIA program, more than all the others probably, are really distributed equally between the public sector, the private sector, and the nonprofit sector. One thing I'll say about the private sector, you see that's about 25% of our graduates, is that most students in the private sector are actually working in positions in support of the public sector. So what do I mean by that? You know, consulting firms that work for development-related consulting firms that might do metrics and evaluations, for example, for USAID. That would be an example of a private sector. Also, there are plenty of other consulting firms that place employees within federal agencies, so that might be another example. And then also people that are working in places like Deloitte Consulting, Booz Allen, that are a little more aligned with the financial sector. Nonprofits tend to be NGOs that are doing active work on the ground in foreign countries. So this is pretty much what I had to say. I might have skipped over a few things, but I wanted to put a face to a name here. So this is me as the program director, and this is Melora Homan-Smith, who is our program coordinator. We've already reached out to most of you with specific emails one way or another. But if you have any questions, you can directly email Melora at MAIA for program questions. For admissions questions, including the flex option, we also have the email for ESIA grad. And you know, quickly on Melora, she's a recent graduate of the program, so she's an extra special resource for the inside scoop, so to speak, on what it's like to be a student, having gone through the program herself. So she's a resource. As I mentioned, we're a team. We also have a dedicated person in advising, Sarah Dennis, who handles the MAIA program specifically, and we have a designated career coach. So the four of us, we're all here to serve you and to help you take the best leap you possibly can forward into your future and your career in international affairs. So with that, I'm happy to answer your questions. And I saw a lot coming through when I was speaking. Okay. I've just got to, there's so many of you here, I need to scroll down, I think, to find the questions. Okay. So what I'm doing is doing these in the order they were received. Wow. How long do students typically spend abroad conducting the research for the capstone? Well, again, as we know that many students are holding internships or full-time positions, most of the field work for a capstone would occur during spring break. So spring break is a week, and then you could add each weekend onto that, so that's 10 days, maybe even take a few other days off. So I would say that the duration is in the spring, and it's about 7 to 11 days of field work. Are you aware of any cases where a student has studied abroad on a fellowship such as Boren or Fulbright during the semester and used that for capstone research? During the semester and use it for capstone research. It is possible, but remember that the capstone is a group project, and so you may bring something to that project related to your personal experience where you've traveled, but generally your sort of research agenda that you've set forth and the way that you're setting out to answer the questions is a team effort, and you'd probably be traveling almost exclusively be traveling with other members on your team during that time over spring break. Another question is if you have any other questions. Sorry. Okay, what's the difference between international security studies and security policy studies? I'm a bit confused. Okay, so we have a specialized degree here at the Elliott School in security policy studies, which is a separate degree from the MAIA degree. The MAIA degree has within it a concentration on international security and a concentration on conflict resolution, both of which are security studies, but we do offer the core curriculum, which is more of a generalist curriculum. I think that what the skill set that we're really inculcating in people here is becoming an analyst, and that's an analyst that could be at any agency. It's someone that might be interested in international organizations other than only defense-related positions, and so that the specialized degree in security policy studies is more for people that are absolutely certain they're on that track, and also people that have usually had intervened experience in the defense sector. And frankly, it's a less diverse program. They've got fewer international students and fewer electives. So that's the difference between the two programs. Can we take more than 3 credits of skills courses? I'm the ultimate, I guess, arbiter or person who decides on your program of study. A program of study would be basically something that I would sign off on along with your advisor. So there are some situations where people will take more than 3 credits of skills courses, but a lot of times that may have more to do with a sense where maybe you've studied abroad at one of our excellent programs like Sciences Po, or in the health school where they offer 2 credit courses, and then you're evening yourself out by taking that 1 extra credit in order to reach the 40 credit maximum. So that'd be a situation in which people would take more than 3 skills credits. Yeah, there's lots of questions about security studies and the IA concentration. So everyone coming into the MAI program, okay, so that's an answer, sorry, not a question. Does GW pay for language courses? Generally, the language courses, I'm a little confused by this, but there are language classes that come outside of your general curriculum that you may decide to take from other institutions within DC that offer the opportunity to brush up on these classes in order to pass your proficiency. And so those classes are not covered by GW, but there are other opportunities. We have, for example, language lunches in many different languages where you can come and sharpen your skills with other students. That's free. And also I noticed that there are institutions around DC, especially regionally focused, that do offer free language courses like the Goethe Institute in German, and some of the other Middle Eastern countries run programs that are for free.